Welcome to the Holistic Kids Show. My name is Zane.
My name is Abdullah.
And mine is Mad.
We're the Holistic Kids here to educate us kids from the inside out. Sometimes brothers get on our nerves.
To us, never. No, not me.
We have talked a lot about stress on this podcast, so you better take care of that stressor, Mod. Or we can learn to manage our stress.
So our brothers don't get on our nerves.
Really, I need to know the answer now.
Well, today we are speaking with Dr. Navaz Habib. Dr. Navaz Habib is the best-selling author of the Activate Your Vagus Nerve and the newly released Upgrade Your Vagus Nerve, which we have right here. After graduating as class valedictorian from Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College in 2010. And went on to practice traditional chiropractic for years until he utilized the power of functional medicine to transform his own health. He continued his lifelong journey to seek answers through the Institute of Functional Medicine. Dr. Habib is the founder of Health Upgraded, an online functional health consulting clinic supporting optimal health by elevating the awareness and function of the vagus nerve. Thank you so much for joining us. So, what drove you to do all the amazing things that you're doing? We would love to know your story.
Love to know your story.
I appreciate it, guys. You're amazing, and I'm so proud of you guys. Honestly, I'm the eldest of three boys as well. I know there's more than just the three of you,
Yes.
but I know exactly what that life is like. I know the stress that can come up when you're in a fun little argument with your younger brothers. I fully understand that. And a lot of those stressors I didn't realize were causing health issues for me over time. When I was in my 20s, I started dealing with significant health issues. I was significantly overweight. I had struggles with my blood pressure. I had borderline diabetes, so it was borderline like blood sugar issues going on. And it wasn't obviously just the stress of my brothers and kind of the challenge that came up there, but it had a lot to do with I didn't know how to handle all the stress that I was under. The school stress, the lack of movement. I wasn't eating well. I was living a very basic, generic, kind of standard American diet type of life. I live in Toronto in Canada, and I grew up here, but it still was a very similar life. And so my own struggles really were the driver that pushed me in this direction, and wanting to overcome them and wanting to not have my own kids share what the issues were there, right? Like I didn't want my own kids to experience the same challenges that I did. And so I'm lucky now. I have two wonderful daughters. They're 6 and 3. And I am doing my absolute best to teach them how to be healthy, how to take on this mantra of being holistic kids. So I love what you guys are doing here.
Let's start with the basics. We are learning about the nerves in school. But what is the vagus nerve?
What have you learned about nerves so far? What do nerves do?
They connect areas of the body, kind of, and then the blood flows.
And that's how our
veins
brain
and
knows
things.
what
Yeah,
is
it just-
happening with the rest of our body.
It connects.
That's exactly right.
Passageways.
Yeah, they're exactly that. They're the messaging link. They're the telephone lines. They're the connecting point, and how signals are sent from one area of the body to another, right? And one of those big areas of the body is the brain. The brain receives all the signals of everything that's happening around us. We get to know that we're standing in a particular position, or how cold it is outside, or if our hand is wet. We get to know all of those challenges. We also get to know if there's a threat to our survival, or a threat that's challenging us from being the healthiest that we can be. And these threats trigger a response called inflammation in our body. And what the vagus nerve does is it catches those signals. It catches the signals of inflammation that are present in every single organ in our body. And that's really unique to the vagus nerve. It is the connecting point. It's a cranial nerve. You don't need to know too much about that right now. It's a unique nerve out of all of the other nerves. And what it does is it brings signals from the gut, from the liver, from the kidneys, from the spleen, up to the brain, and then it sends signals down to all of those organs to try to control the inflammation so that we don't go overly inflamed into a chronic inflammation state. And that's really what the vagus nerve drives. So it's unique within all the nerves, but it's very focused on managing and controlling inflammation and your gut health. That's a really big piece to the puzzle. When our vagus nerve is not working well, one of the main things that will suffer is the health of our gut, the ability for signals to be sent back and forth between the microbiome, which I know you guys know all about,
Yes.
and sending signals up to the brain, and the signals that come down from the brain to the microbiome and to the gut lining. So it's a very unique nerve.
So, I mean, how do we even upgrade our vagus nerve? Can we even control it?
Yeah, you know what's really exciting? We absolutely can. And we can do it in a really interesting and fun way. I want you to think of, are you guys Marvel fans? Do you like the Marvel?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So
When
this
it was
is gonna be
better.
really fun. You guys obviously know who the Hulk is.
Yes.
Mhm.
And you also know who the opposite of the Hulk is, or who becomes the Hulk. Do you know his name?
She-Hulk?
Who becomes the Hulk?
Yeah, who's the guy who becomes Hulk? Who's the guy who transforms?
Bruce
into Hulk?
Banner.
Yeah, there we go. Dr. Bruce Banner, right? So Dr. Banner learned initially when he was exposed to the gamma radiation and he couldn't control what was going on. He was essentially like a baby who didn't know how to control this transformation that could occur in his body. What the vagus nerve is the connecting point for that controlling information. Okay. And if you ever did you ever watch the Incredible Hulk movie? One of the
No.
first ones? No. So
Yeah,
there was
so
a really
old.
It
cool
was,
scene.
it was made a long time ago.
Yeah. It was made a long time ago. You're right. So I know I'm really aging myself right now. There was a moment where he was controlling his heart rate, okay, to make sure that he didn't get angry or he didn't get to a point that if he got over that particular heart rate, he would become the Hulk. And he didn't want to do that. And so he was monitoring his heart rate on a watch. And what he had to do was breathe to help him keep his heart rate down. And he learned how to control it. He learned how to keep his heart rate down and then how to elevate it when it was needed. So when the Avengers were necessary and Loki and Thanos and everybody were coming to destroy Earth, he had to transform. He had to control it so he could become the Hulk when it was necessary. And he had to reverse it when he didn't need Hulk to be there anymore, that he needed to be Dr. Bruce Banner. That control that he had there was through the breath. He was able to control all of that through how he was breathing. Okay. And that's how we have control over our vagus nerve. Literally, what Hulk does is control his vagus nerve through his breathing. Okay. So the control is our breath. We want to learn how to turn on the vagus nerve and then let it turn off when it's necessary. And the way to do that is to slow our breath down, to get our breath slow, diaphragmatic, meaning a belly breath, and then through our nose. We want to slow everything down. Long exhales, nasal breathing, and all in our belly. We don't want it to be chest breathing. That's secondary. The breath should be through the nose, to the belly, and slow.
So what you're saying is that if we can control, if we are mindful of our breathing, then it can really like change how our vagus nerve is, and we can kind of become our own Hulk.
100%. You can become the Hulk when you need it, like when you're playing basketball or you're wrestling with your brothers or you're doing something physical, fun, exciting. That's what you need to do to learn how to shift to Hulk mode. Is you get your breath going a little bit faster. You start breathing potentially through your mouth. You start using your chest to breathe really fast. That's when Hulk mode can come on. But you can turn off Hulk mode and go into Dr. Banner mode when you have to write an exam or when you're writing a paper or when you're writing a book, for example. So these are all things that you can use, and that breath control really is the driver of that ability.
So what happens if you can't control your vagus nerve? Do you just go like insane for the rest of your life?
Luckily, no. And what's really exciting about this is you can think of it this way, and I know you guys are a little bit young for this, but cars have an accelerator and a brakes, right? The accelerator makes the car go forward, and the brakes makes the car slow down. And we need to have both in order for the car to work really well. You're 16, so I imagine you're getting used to what driving is like. And so you can imagine if you push the accelerator and nothing happens, the car is not going anywhere, right? It becomes a hunk of junk sitting in the garage, not doing anything. But if you don't have brakes and you have an accelerator that's working, then it becomes a danger. It actually becomes dangerous to the people around us, to the pedestrians and the other cars that are driving around us. And that's what happens when our bodies don't have a good working vagus nerve. But we can change that. The same way we can get our brakes fixed, the same way that we're able to take it to the mechanic and get them to work on it and change the brake pads, fill up the brake fluid, ensure that the rotors are all working, making sure that things are working effectively. That's how we maintain it. But when it's not working because the brakes have burnt out, for example, we have to learn how to do that replacement in our own bodies. And so a big part of that is your breathing. It's how you breathe, the things that I mentioned earlier, but there's a lot of other really cool tools that you can use to help to make it work better. But when you can't control the vagus nerve, when you don't have good brake function, our body goes into an inflammatory state. It actually drives poor digestion, excess inflammation throughout the rest of the body. It can lead to a lot of conditions in the brain, things like Alzheimer's, dementia. It can lead to inflammatory bowel disease. It can lead to metabolic dysfunction. This is a huge issue. It's not, vagus nerve dysfunction is not a diagnosis. It is a pathway to allow for all of the other diagnoses to occur. And so when it's not working, we need to do some work to shift it over.
So kids today are more stressed than ever before because of school, because of
Just life.
just like life in general. There's lots of stress everywhere.
Like social media.
Your social media, yeah, that's a big one. So what can kids do to manage the stress and optimize their vagus nerve?
It's a really great question. And I will say, I see how my kids are stressed in different ways, even when they're just 6 years old and 3 years old. There's so many new demands that are being placed on us, and our bodies are only so capable of handling that stress. And so what we want to do is we want to build something called resilience. Do you guys know what resilience is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the ability to bounce back, right? When something pulls us, we want to be able to bounce back and become good, strong, and effective once again. And resilience is built through these particular exercises. And so I want to do a quick one with you guys while you're here. I might as well. I'll get you guys each to put one hand on your chest and one hand just on your belly. Okay, and I want you to take 3 breaths and just see which hand is moving more. When you take that breath in, do you feel like the hand that's on your chest is moving more, or the hand that's on your belly?
Belly.
I think my
Belly?
chest.
Yeah.
So you're kind of doing both. Okay. And this is something that we can use. This is a feedback tool. This is a tool that helps us learn, are we breathing with our chest or are we breathing with our belly? Okay. So catching ourselves when we are breathing with our belly or catching ourselves when we're breathing through our mouth, this is a great way to say, nope, I need to shift something. I need to change something, make it work better because I don't want to go into Hulk mode. I want to go into Dr. Banner mode. And so what we can do to help shift to Dr. Banner mode is we literally take that breath and we imagine that there's a balloon in our belly. Okay? You can picture whatever color you want that balloon to be. You can picture whatever character you want to be on that balloon. It can be Iron Man, it can be Batman, it can be Elsa from Frozen, which it usually is in my house. It can be whoever you want it to be. And you imagine that balloon is blowing up and expanding in your belly every time you take a breath in. And then you imagine that balloon is slowly shrinking down every time you breathe out. And you create this visual of what you're seeing happen, but you're seeing it happen in your belly. And you take 3 breaths where you feel that balloon expanding in your belly and you visualize it in your brain. And that's a great way to help shift your body into feeling just a little bit more calm really quickly. And that's the best tool. The breath really is the main tool that can be used by anybody. And here's the best part about it. It's free, and we are already breathing about 20,000 times.
Yes. If you're not,
really easy
that's
to
a problem.
All right. So learning to catch yourself is really what's amazing there.
That's amazing.
This is
Amazing.
amazing.
So how can we measure the vagus nerve? I mean, we can't even really see it. It's a nerve, right?
You can kind of feel close to it. So it is a nerve, and there's one area where we can really get close to it. Do you guys know how to find your pulse in your
Yeah.
neck?
Yeah.
If you just go in front of the muscle, so there's a muscle that comes out just from behind your ear down to in front of your chest here. It's called your sternocleidomastoid muscle. If you just go on that muscle and then you pop just in front, you'll feel your pulse. Okay. And this spot, you're actually within a few millimeters of your vagus nerve, because your vagus nerve is actually quite thick in the neck, and it's beside your carotid artery, which is what you're feeling your pulse on. Okay. It's in that same area. And there's ways to measure this. There's tools we can use to help to understand how well this nerve is functioning.
Yeah.
One of the best tools, in fact, the best tool for measuring vagus nerve function is something called heart rate variability. Okay. And we can talk a little bit about that, because I think that's where we're kind of headed in this conversation.
So, like you just said, heart rate variability. What is that? I mean, how can we measure it? How can we measure it?
Yeah, like how do we measure it?
It's a great question. So heart rate variability is different than heart rate. Do you know what your heart rate is?
It's that thing that goes like.
Yeah, so you're seeing your heartbeat on the ECG, which you see, yes, exactly, on the side of the picture on the book. So that's your ECG, and what heartbeat is, or your beats per minute, is a measure of how many of those big spikes there are every minute. Okay, so your heart rate is literally the number it should be somewhere around that 60 number when you're resting. Okay, 60 to 70, 50 to 60, somewhere in there is a good number for when we're resting. That's called your resting heart rate. Heart rate variability looks at the amount of time between the spikes in the heartbeat. Okay, so how many milliseconds are there present between the two peaks of that heartbeat? Okay, and the measurement that we're looking at there should not be too rhythmic. It shouldn't be like a metronome. If you know what a metronome is, where we have like a tick, 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 where we're measuring time and it's measuring a beat on that time. Our heart should not beat like that. It should beat just a little bit faster and just a little bit slower every so often. And what that does is it creates variability. What that means is we're getting signals from the vagus nerve and from the nerves that counter the job of the vagus nerve, which is the sympathetic nerves. And what that means is it speeds the heart rate up and it slows the heart rate down. And it speeds it up and it slows it down. And it speeds it up and slows it down. And as it does that, it creates this idea of variability. And so what we're looking for is both the accelerator, which is the sympathetic nerves, making the heart rate go faster, and the parasympathetic, the brakes, making the heart rate slow down. And the way to control that and to improve that is through your breath again.
So we have heard about something called the Aura Ring, and even though that sounds like a mystical item, what is that?
It's a really great question, and you're gonna laugh. I'm wearing one right now. So this is the Aura Ring. I love my Aura Ring. I've had it for over 5 years. I've had it for more than some of the people that work at the company. So I know how this thing works, and I love it because it is a great tool for measuring your breathing and your heart rate, and most importantly, your heart rate variability. There are lots of other tools as well, things like the Whoop band. Apple Watch now does it. Garmin and Fitbit, they tend to have all of these things. All of these tools are there, but they're wonderful for helping to measure exactly what is going on with the heart and the variability of the heart. Okay. And what we want is more variability within a good physiological way. So we want to have higher variability. That's a sign that we have good working accelerator and good working brakes, and the signals are getting to the heart effectively.
So it basically just tells you what's going on with your heart.
Yeah.
At a deeper level than even just heart rate. So it's one step more effective at telling us if the vagus nerve is working than just looking at your heart function.
Well, that's pretty cool, knowing what's happening inside your body.
Well, but how does the ring tell you Like, is it like...
Does it track pulse or?
Yeah, it tracks your pulse. It's sort of your pulse, but it tracks the blood flow through the blood vessels in your nerves. So they've got like these lights that pop up in there. The lights are not on right now. And the sensors will measure the flow of blood through the blood vessels in the finger, and other ones will do it on the blood vessels on the wrist. So it's a great way to check. There's other ones that will check on the chest as well. There's a Polar H10 chest strap, which is really good. There's some that do finger measurements. Those are a little more annoying to get. But there's lots of great tools that are out there to help measure the heart rate and the time between that calculates out.
So we know Heart Math has done lots of studies on heart rate variability. When you live a life of appreciation, your heart rate, it is a nice sine wave. But when you live a life of frustration, your heart rate variability is all over the place. So how can we optimize our heart rate variability?
It's a really great question. And Heart Math is a wonderful tool. So Heart Math is it was an institute that created certain devices that are great for measuring heart rate variability, and a very particular measure that Heart Math is all about, called coherence. And coherence occurs when heart rate variability is high, but it measures in alignment with your heart rate and your breath rate as well. And one of the things they found to be the most effective in helping to increase heart rate variability and make it work better is exactly that: appreciation, gratitude, being open, being socially connected, being around a lot of other people. One of the most important things we can do to make our vagus nerve work better and have our heart rate variability elevate is to literally laugh with other people physically around us. It's one of the reasons why people that have these wonderful big families like you guys do, even when elbows are being pushed around and everybody's kind of getting a little bit riled, it's still fun, and you're laughing, and there's joy, and there's happiness, and that appreciation of having that connectedness around you makes such a huge difference to people's health. Because unfortunately, one of the biggest reasons why people get sick and have issues with health challenges is loneliness. Loneliness is one of the main drivers of all-cause mortality of a lot of health conditions overall, and the ability to survive long-term. So appreciation for that social support system that you have and being connected to all of these people, I think it makes a huge difference.
So basically, the heartbeat thing that comes up, what is it called again? The
Heartbeat.
This is just called heartbeat, right?
So what we're seeing on there is it's an artistic version of it, but it's called the ECG. So it's ECG. Each spike at the top is a beat of the heart, or when the electrical activity in the heart pops up.
So the ECG it usually goes faster or slower depending on your physical activity.
Exactly.
Right? And so the heart rate variability goes fast, higher, and slower based on how you feel.
Yes.
Oh, so it's like internal, external.
Exactly. So your heart rate will increase when you exercise. And that's part of the idea, right? When I get on my bike behind me, or when I go to the gym and I get my heart rate elevated, what I'm doing is I'm going into a sympathetic state. I'm going into a state where I'm pushing the accelerator. And then at the end of my workout, I need to be able to bring my heart rate back down, and I need to push the brakes. And so I use breathing, I use calm music, I use relaxation tools, I use my diaphragmatic belly breathing with my balloon in my head. I'm using that to help to shift myself back to putting the brakes on.
So we pray 5 times a day. Does prayer help upgrade the vagus nerve? I know I've tried to take deep breaths before when we prayed and move my concentration and put my body back into the rest and digest mode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Are there any other things kids can do to lower stress?
For sure. Prayer is definitely one of the tools that people can use. It's quite effective, a lot more than people think, because when we pray effectively, what we're doing is we're recentering our focus. We're taking our focus off of everything external to us, the entire world around us, and we're bringing our focus back to our heart and to ourselves, and our breath is a huge part of that. Yeah. And so prayer is a wonderful way to help shift that. And it's great to take some good deep breaths calming prior to the prior to the prayer, because then we're able to focus more effectively and use that time really, really effectively.
But that really only works if you're actually focused and you're not going like, and you
That's
actually
exactly
take
why
the
you want to
time.
take those breaths before, so that you can not be
Yeah.
going a little bit nutty with
Yeah.
all of the movements. Yes.
So besides prayer, what other things can kids do to lower their stress? I mean, we've told us about breathing, prayer. What about nature?
Yeah, nature is one of the best ones, honestly. Getting outside, going for a walk in the middle of the day, or in the morning or the evening, it's wonderful to get outdoors first off, because we know that air quality outside is way better for us. We're able to breathe more clearly. And there's actually a lot of research showing that when we are in nature, our heart rate variability goes up. We become more connected to the ground. We get more connected to the world overall, and we're able to really bring in that appreciation, that same appreciation piece that we look for when we have kind of that loneliness feeling. So this is really one of those tools. So getting out in nature is a really great one. Here's a fun one for you guys as well. Before your next meal, I imagine you might be having dinner soon after this.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the things you can do, this is a fun game I play with my girls, because often there's a lot of running around and trying to bring the kids to come and sit at the table. Sometimes we play this game where we hum and we do a little bit of buzzing like a bee inside our throat to get our vagus nerve stimulated and get into a calm state. So really simply, you can just hum like a bee in the bottom of your throat. Just go, and try to hold that as long as you can. And what you're doing is you're stimulating the muscles in your neck here that are actually vagus nerve stimulated muscles. And we're slowing our breathing and we're going into a long exhale. Humming is one of the coolest, easiest, simple ways for kids, especially, to help themselves feel like they're getting better and getting their vagus nerve turned on.
Wow, you are so empowering.
So empowering.
So empowering.
You have this amazing book. Please tell us more. You can get where we can get this book.
You can buy it at any book retailer. It will be out on February 6th, so just under 2 weeks. I used to do the same thing to my brother.
And thank you so much, Dr. Habibi.
It's my absolute pleasure, guys.
And this was amazing.
Incredible.
So generous.
And remember, everyone needs this book today. And it's not even that long. It's
a
just
must get book.
It's not even that long. You can easily go through it.
Yeah, I purposefully kept it as short as possible so people could get good info really quickly, and it was an easy read.
So us kids are dealing with a lot of stresses, but we want to build resilience to bounce back no matter what we're dealing with. And here's some more tips.
Let's recap. Dr. Navaz Habib, key points.
So the brain receives all the signals from our body, and the vagus nerve catches the signals of the inflammation. It brings signals from the body to the brain and down to the organs to control the inflammation. We can control our vagus nerve to keep our body healthy. And you can also learn to turn on the vagus nerve and turn it off. Remember, just slow nasal breathing all in your belly is key to controlling the vagus nerve. Imagine if there's a balloon in your belly. Take 3 breaths and that will help with your body becoming more calm.
Laughing, getting out in nature, and social connection can help to optimize our heart rate variability. Praying effectively can recenter our focus and lower stress. Humming like a bee in the bottom of our throat can also help to stimulate our vagus nerves.
So thank you again, Dr. Habib. This was amazing.
Amazing.
So thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zansari.
I'm Abdullah.
And I'm Imad.
Follow my family on social media, Holistic Momsy, and look out for my mom's book. She's working on her 8th, and we are working on our 1st, and I am working on the illustrations of the 8th. So it's extremely exciting, and there's a lot of stuff happening in the house. So kids need to learn from other kids. Please download our podcast and iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to work together to create a healthy future for all of us and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show, where kids are empowering kids. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.